Learning about financial literacy is a challenge for anyone. But imagine being a newcomer to Canada where everything is, like, you don't even know where to get groceries and where your kid's going to go to school, all that stuff. So for newcomers, it is a whole other level. Additionally, women face unique boundaries. So to be female in this country, to be a newcomer in this country is a lot. Bring those two together, it's a lot. Today, we're going to talk about what some of those challenges are and what some of those solutions are for female newcomers in particular. And our guest is Tonie Chaltas. She is Chief Executive Officer of Achēv, which is a provider of a whole bunch of services to 100,000 diverse Canadians and newcomers. Tonie joins us to talk about some of the challenges that women face. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks, Bruce. Love coming to chat with you.
So it's Financial Literacy Month, a big deal for us. And our focus again this year is on newcomers. I want to ask you to speak to some of the challenges that women or people who identify as women, what additional challenges or more nuanced challenges they face that are different.
Thank you so much, Bruce. And it's often we just consider newcomers. So I'm really pleased that we can have this conversation about some of the unique challenges women face as newcomers to Canada, because there are a number of them. You know, on top of all of those normal settlement tasks that a newcomer faces when they arrive in Canada, you know, getting settled, find a place to live, get a doctor, get into OHIP, get established. Often what happens is a family comes and we find employment for men. Newcomers is faster and easier, although it's a huge challenge. They often take 2 to 3 survival jobs, which means everything's falling to the woman.
Right.
Often they come from cultures where the most they've had to do is to manage what can be a very small allowance for the daily needs of food for their family, and the men look after all the rest. So all of the sudden, women not only are getting kids settled, helping to get all of the bits and pieces in place for building a life in Canada, they're doing a lot of financial tasks for the very first time. So budgeting, I love your butterfly app. So well done, Credit Canada. I think that fills a real need, you know, in terms of helping them figure out how to make these small budgets for milk and eggs and all of the things that a family needs, just actually meet the daily requirements for their family. But all of that while they're trying to learn English and many times trying to find a job, setting up bank accounts. They've never had to do that before. Understand how the system works. What's a debit card? How do I use it? What buttons am I pushing on this ATM? All of these very intimidating first things that now is falling to a woman that she's never had to do in a new country, and she doesn't speak the language.
What are some of the complexities when we think about the culture of origin and the role that women play? Are there different expectations for how she may engage in the world around her? And I'm conscious of my own preconceived notions or biases about what that looks like, because I'm sure it's much more nuanced than I could ever imagine. But I can imagine it's quite different for a newcomer refugee from a war-torn country versus, you know, someone moving from a traditional democracy and maybe they had a robust career in their home country.
So I think some of the things that we hear is women in their home countries, if they are in a situation where they're tightly controlled, as I mentioned, are given an allowance. And not only are they given that allowance, they have to account for every single penny of that spend. And it's a small allowance. And oftentimes, if the husband is working multiple jobs, they're not going into grocery stores. They have no idea how much these things cost. So the woman not only is justifying every single penny, it's why did a lettuce cost $3.99? That seems outrageous. Why are we doing this? So why do we need that? So the layers of what has to happen for them to be able to justify how they're spending. And then I think just the family adjusting to all of these new roles that everybody's being thrown into play adds to the stress. And then let's not forget that oftentimes these are multi-leveled families where you have grandparents, you have mom and dad, and you have children. So money's having to go even further than it did before. So there's that much more unique spends. Why am I spending $79 on a coat for my child? Well, it's winter soon,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's an additional cost that maybe they hadn't contemplated, they haven't budgeted for. All of a sudden, there's $80 plus tax out of a budget that they hadn't expected. So, it's a unique cultural differences where those controls, those expectations are different, and then just the unique dynamics that they're facing.
There are a tremendous number of supports out there in Canada. Some are big, some are hyper local and super grassroots. If I could snap my fingers, I would somehow have it be universal that every newcomer and every other human who had connection with them knew about all of those resources. But unfortunately, the universe isn't going to listen to my finger snapping here.
Too bad.
What are some of the things that you would talk to speak to in terms of the resources out there that, maybe not newcomers, may not be listening to the show, but a lot of us are in touch with or connected to enablers for those newcomers? What should they know? If you could snap your fingers, what would you have them know?
I would love for them to understand the resources that are free, that are available at Achēv and organizations just like us across the country. So we do regular webinars on financial literacy. It is actually one of our most popular regular webinars that we host. It's oversubscribed, oftentimes overpopulated by women versus men. But Bruce, you want to know the sad part is the women that lead some of these programs at Achēv have told me the silence can be deafening. They don't even know what to ask.
Right.
So some of the most basic things like organizations like us at Achēv do is work very hands-on with our clients to help them understand, how do you open a bank account? Why are they asking for the information that they're asking for? We've all been told, don't share your information. It's your personal information. So now all of a sudden they go into a bank and they're being asked for this. And somebody out there has said, don't share your personal information. So they're overwhelmed. They think they're going to be taken advantage of. So what do you need when you go into a bank? How do you open it? How do you access banking online? How do you read a bank statement? What buttons do you press at the online banking? What actually is going into a store and using debit? So we discuss a lot of things like that. I actually was talking to a woman who runs one of those programs and teaches one-on-one financial literacy to their programs. And she was telling me about a story where she had a client who, unbeknownst to her, had gone into a bank to open an account for the very first time. So she'd done her own work. She hadn't realized there were resources available to her. And she got completely overwhelmed, Bruce, and she ran out of the bank before she even completed her forms because they were asking her for information she didn't understand why they needed, that she didn't understand the language. So these kinds of supports, whether it's webinars, we have a wide range of programs that we've embedded financial literacy into. They're available for free for newcomers to Canada. So I think it's resources such as achēv.ca, where they can search out these programs that are available because they do need supports. And financial literacy is tough for anyone these days if you're dealing with it for the first time. But when you're overwhelmed with all these other tasks, there are resources out there they can use. Organizations like Achēv.
Yeah. There's only so far you can cut expenses to have your budget balanced. Income's a key part of it. Some newcomers are able to, receive the benefits of community supports in various forms, but I'd say all of them are hoping to engage in the workforce. What are the dynamics that you notice for newcomer women on getting that first job, being successful in that first job that might differ from men?
So I think the biggest barrier all newcomers face is this notion of Canadian experience, right? Real huge challenge. But oftentimes with women, they have all of these other responsibilities at home. So finding something that offers them a degree of flexibility to actually take care of families, take care of kids, parents, to be able to do all of these other tasks is a huge challenge. And what we do know is things like financial literacy, salaries are all lower for women newcomers. So and they don't, again, back to that webinar experience, they don't know what they don't know. So they don't know that they're being underpaid. They don't know that they can ask for certain things. They don't understand employment laws. They don't understand things like maternity leave and what their rights are in the workforce. And then, of course, you just add language barriers. So a lot of it is the need to level the playing field for everybody. So it makes it fair for not just newcomer women, but everybody. But there are a lot of unique barriers that women face, often because they have these additional responsibilities that men don't face.
Yeah. Yeah. Tonie, thank you so much for your time today.
Great to speak with you, Bruce. Thank you for all you're doing. It is just a tremendous effort to support newcomers in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you. Tonie Chaltas, Chief Executive Officer of Achēv. It is a provider of a whole bunch of stuff: employment, settlement, language, women, youth, and technology solutions. They have 100,000 Canadians that they support, diverse Canadians and newcomers, and really such great work.